Hello, everyone. I'm Tanya, the VP of Marketing at PourMyBeer and PourMyBeverage. I want to thank you all for joining us today for our webinar, How to Execute Wine on Tap and its Benefits. Here's a quick reminder of what PourMyBeer is and what we do. We are the next generation self-pour beverage dispense technology, and while our name can be confusing, we dispense much more than just a beer. The simple rule goes, if it's a liquid, our technology can pour it. This is why we want to educate you more about kegged wine and its operational benefits and serving efficiency. This webinar's goal is to give restaurant owners and operators like you a stronger understanding of the benefits self-pour wine can bring you and help you increase profits in your establishment by utilizing it. Now let's take a look at who we have partnered up with for our webinar today. Hi, Barclay. How are you doing?
Hello.
Can you tell us a little bit about FreeFlow and yourself?
So we are the pioneers of wine on tap. We started back in 2009 in a 200 square foot garage in San Francisco and have since expanded numerous times. And now we have a facility, a 58,000 square foot facility in Sonoma, where we keg a lot of our domestic wines. And then we also have another facility on the East Coast in New Jersey, where we keg a lot of our imports and do some smaller projects there. We also do some canning as well, but kegging, remains our number one focus. And it's really exciting. We're working with a couple hundred different wineries now. We have well over 300 different SKUs available. We work with just about every major distributor across the states, and we are available in all 50 states. And I think it's safe to say that sustainability and not being afraid to sort of challenge the sometimes overly traditional nature of the wine business is in our DNA, and I'm really excited to be here.
Fantastic. We're so excited to have you on. Can you tell me also a little bit about how did you get involved with FreeFlow Wines?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the wine business my whole adult life, and even before that, sold some beverages, lemonade stands and whatnot too. So no stranger to the wine business. Prior to this, I was with Winebow Imports 3 years and worked with a number of their brands. But, I got into the Master of Wine program during that and really started studying viticulture and winemaking more in depth than I ever have before. And one thing you'll notice when you really start comparing wines and seeing what they used to taste like and what they taste like now, and realizing all the challenges that viticulturists and wineries are facing, is that I really wanted to be part of the solution of what we are seeing with the climate crisis. And I think what FreeFlow is doing is remarkable and really addressing what is the number one source of carbon emissions in the wine business, which is glass bottles. And I wanted to be part of the solution.
Now, before I invite the rest of our wonderful speakers on, I just wanted to let you all attendees know that if you have any internet troubles during this webinar, really no need to worry. The recording of this webinar will be available next week. We will share the entire session with you via email when we are done editing it. You can watch it as many times as you want, so please don't worry in case that there is any tech troubles, and hopefully there are not. If you also want to access this recording earlier, we will be posting it in our Facebook group called Trending Hospitality Industry News and Updates. So make sure to join it and get access earlier. Gabby will be posting that here in the chat, so you can just click that link and hop on. And now it's time to introduce you to our wonderful speakers. Let's start by traveling all the way to beautiful Pacific Northwest and say hi to the owner of Red Dog in Tacoma, Washington. Hi, Lane. How are you?
I am doing great, thank you. And good morning, everybody, or good afternoon almost.
Yeah, I think morning for you and afternoon for the East Coast. Yes,
exactly.
Lane, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and also about Red Dog?
Sure. From the Pacific Northwest in Seattle. Started out in the restaurant business about 20 years ago with the opening of Melting Pots in Washington. And we've opened up some other concepts and sold other concepts. And we started dabbling in the PourMyBeer concept about a year ago. And we opened up the Red Dog that is featured on about my Red English Lab. And so we named it after him. And the first location that we opened is in Tacoma. We've got another location that is under construction right now in Puyallup, and another one that at least we're getting ready to negotiate and sign here in Bellevue, Washington. But I'm probably more your normal pub, PourMyBeer pub, where we offer a variety of wines and beers and ciders and seltzers and kombuchas, and so I'm not a wine keg expert, but I've definitely dabbled in it for the past few years, so I have a little bit of information and knowledge to share.
And that's exactly why we have you on, because we definitely want to balance it out with our next speaker. I'm not going to give that name out just yet, but that way, whoever is tuning in here and listening to our webinar and are more of a tap room owner or a bar owner and are focusing on all the varietals and offering beers and cocktails and stuff like that, you can find more inspiration, because the next speaker is a little too focused on wine sometimes. So that's why I'm definitely happy to have you on, so we can kind of have both perspectives. So thank you so much for joining us today, Lane. We really appreciate having you.
Excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, now it's time to say hello to our second speaker here, Thomas from Wanderlust Winery down in Austin, Texas. Hi, Thomas. How are you? Can you hear me well?
Yeah, it sounds great.
Awesome. How are you? And how did you become part of the biggest soft-pour winery in the world, really?
Yeah, so I'm doing great. It's really hot in Texas. It's been that way. It's going to be that way for a little bit longer. But we have a lot of awesome wines to cool you down. I got into it. I'm actually the general manager here at both locations, Wanderlust Wine Company in Austin, Texas. Sammy Lamb is the owner. I met him at a party, actually. So being open, networking where you can, got me open. He signed me on, helped them start up the largest on-tap winery in the world. And right now we have 64 different reds, whites, rosés, sparklings, even honey wines on tap for people to try. So.
Impressive. Yeah, lots of wine to choose from for sure. Perfect. Thank you so much, Thomas. I appreciate it. Without further ado, let's dive into our first section of the 3 sections that we've prepared for today's webinar. The first section is called Benefits of Soft-Pour Wine. So let's just talk to both of you, and hopefully Barclay can chop in a little bit as well on his experience. So first, Elaine, can you start with how many and what types of wine do you offer in your establishment?
We currently have red, white, and we have a sparkling on right now just for the summer months, so we're offering mimosa. We usually always go with a lighter red, a darker red, so maybe a Pinot and a Cab or a blend, and then white, we usually go with a rosé in the springtime and throughout the summer. We always have either a Chardonnay or Sauvignon Blanc. Chardonnay is definitely our one wine that we sell the most of. So, and that's in this location here. The second location will have a bit more variety because we'll have more tap handles, so we'll be able to do 3 or 4 whites and 3 or 4 reds and mix it up a little bit more.
Fantastic. Awesome. The same question goes for Thomas. Thomas, can you share that with us too?
Yeah, so at our east side location, we have 64 on tap, and at our downtown location in Austin, we have 56. And we have a variety of reds, whites, rosés, pretty much anything that can be put in a keg in the world of wine we want to have on tap. The PourMyBeer system is perfect for trying different wines that you've never heard of and, getting a little taste or even a double glass. So having that variety is definitely awesome for the consumer, and it's really thanks to PourMyBeer.
Wonderful. And Barclay, obviously you don't have your establishment, but are you able to at least roughly tell us how many and what types of wine does Free Flow really offer?
Yeah, right now we have just short of 400 different SKUs in keg, and it's about 70% domestic, 30% international imports. We import. I guess our biggest import regions would be from France and Italy, sort of the traditional European regions. But we are growing our footprint from South America as well as Australia and New Zealand. And then, as far as the domestic wines go, California, is king, given that's where we started. But, Washington, Oregon, they're all taking off. And we just signed on a couple of wineries from New York as well. So pretty well balanced, and yeah, lots of wines in our arsenal for sure.
Thank you. Now let's dive into talking more about the benefits of self-pour wine for customers. So for patrons, Lane, could you tell me how does wine on tap benefit your customers' experience?
Well, I think it's a lot like the beer and the cider, is that the customers are able to pour themselves a couple ounces as a tester, see if they like it. If it's something that they do like, then they can pour themselves a full glass. If it's something that they don't, they can pour out and try something different. So it just, I think just like the whole concept of the PourMyBeer, they pay per ounce. If somebody just wants a half of a glass, they can just pay for half of a glass. And so, but a lot of it is from the feedback that we get from our guests and our customers, is they love the fact that they can just pour an ounce or two and taste it, and if they don't like it, then move on.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lane. Thomas, if you want to add anything to it, you can. And I have a side question on this one too. So do you find that customers sample more with the more options they have? I know you have a lot of options for them.
Yeah, no, we do. We have so many different options, and there's so many different wines in the world of wine that, you're not going to like all of them. Having the ability to taste it before you commit to a full glass is really the experience we want to give to people. Being their own sommelier for the day, figuring out what kind of wines they like. We like to section them off to where they're near very similar different varietals. So, we'll have Sauvignon Blanc next to maybe a very bright, acidic, and earthy Pinot Grigio that we found on tap. So, just opening up people's experiences, having them pour their own wines is definitely really awesome for them. I feel that people pour more of what they like when there's more options of what they like. They tend to, be a bit cautious for wines that they never heard. But if they love it, then, I've seen people pour double glasses of it. So
That's impressive. Do you find a lot of the customers sampling in a way how they would do with beer flights?
a little bit. So our tap wall, you grab a glass, you can pour from it, you bring it to your table. We're about to start little pamphlets with little golf pencils that you can kind of write down what wine you had, where it's from, what varietal it was, and a little bit of your own description. So the flights are going to get even more experiential in the future. But yeah, I mean, they'll put down maybe 3 or 4 different 1-ounce pours in front of them and, kind of taste them as they go. We set up the tap wall to where it's very light, bright, and acidic towards the left, working our way to rosés in the middle, and then towards the right we have our fruity red starting off, going towards really earthy, really round, peppery things, and then finally capping it off at actually even wine-based cocktails. You can even find wine-based cocktails through PourMyBeer and actually through Free Flow Wines and other distributors. So.
I think you're really driving that trend too, because when I was down there a few times at both of the Wanderlust location, that was the first time when I tried wine-based cocktails, and I have to say that I was also surprised how many other people were drinking it. So it seems like it's really driving the revenue for you guys there that does it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's awesome having something that's approachable.
Great. Barclay, did you want to add something?
Yeah, just to chime in, I think the consistent taste, the little bullet point there, is a really big one for me, and maybe it's because I'm, perhaps a little more wine involved than the average consumer, but I think it's a problem everywhere. And, places that are serving wines by the glass are often avoided because it's hard to trust that wine hasn't been open too long, isn't going to be served at hot, like above room temperature, been sitting in the window or something. There's just a lot of, nobody wants to get in a situation where they have to send the wine back and, be disappointed or get a nasty look from the server or whatnot. So I think, a lot of times people have avoided wine, sampling wines and trying wines even just by the glass because they figure, oh, there's a good chance that's been open too long, I better get a bottle, or I better just drink beer or something like that. So I think, and then also I think with you guys, especially your self-pour, systems, it's a real consistent, measured pour too, right? So you're getting what you paid for. It's not too much, it's not too little, it's exactly what you want. And I think that's also, a key perk as well. But yeah, I mean, I think having wines that are open too long, it's a bigger issue than it really gets credit for, and it really hampers by the glass sales when you don't have wine on tap and you don't have self pour. You don't know how much you're going to get necessarily, and yeah, I think they're both addressed with this systems here, the self pour wine on tap.
Yeah, absolutely. And our stance on this is, not everybody can fit self-pour in. We want them to at least go with kegged. If they can't go all the way in and have a self-pour, at least go with kegged wine, because it does have all these benefits that we're talking about here, and obviously mostly the quality, taste, and less waste. It's way better for the environment. So, we're a big advocate for kegged wine, and that's why we have you on here, Barclay. So we'll hear more about that later today. Let's dive into benefits of self-pour wine for operators. We've covered it pretty extensively for the customers. So, Lane, can you tell me, how does self-pour wine provide easier inventory management for you?
Well, we have less walking out the door than we do in our other concepts. It's a little tougher to if you're managing your inventory and really talking about theft for employees, that it's easy to walk out the door with a bottle, but it's a little tougher to walk out the door with a keg at the end of the night. So I think our inventory is definitely more accurate. Our cost of goods sold at the end of the month, we're running our reports, are definitely more accurate. We don't have that loss factor of theft and loss that we have to calculate into our numbers, because it is a issue, I think, with a lot of restaurants. And so, yeah, I think there's definitely benefits to the self-pour when it comes to managing your inventory.
I assume, Thomas, you're seeing something similar in Wanderlust as well. Is that right?
Yeah, when you have a specific amount per keg, a 20-liter keg, so how much you can now inventory manage it by the ounce instead of by the 5 or 4 glasses that you can get out of a bottle, that average. And that's not even accounting for tastes that you're pouring for the consumer that wants to try it. And like Barclay said, how long is that wine open? How long was that? And the keg keeps it fresh, and we're able to, section it off by the ounce, and it's just really easy to manage.
Thomas, sorry, Barclay, were you going to chop in?
Same thing. I think it's along these same lines. It's just, with traditional by the glass programs, you're often looking at somewhere between 5 and 15% oxidized wine waste that you just have to pour out because the bottle's been open too long. And, that really throws a wrench in trying to, forecast your profits and cash flow and whatnot. It just, I can see from an operator standpoint, and I think that's what you both have kind of hinted on, is that, there's very little of the unknown. Like, you can account for just about everything. And that really allows you to measure things and manage it better.
Thomas, can you tell us, how does self-pour wine allow you to run a more sustainable business?
Oh, yeah. Well, in tandem with free flow, we're able to use the steel kegs, recycle, they go back and get reused. And of course, we're not dumping out hundreds, even thousands of wine bottles. Since we're only a winery, per quarter, per year, we're saving on waste, we're saving on all of our expenses, and it just helps us keep fresh inventory all the time.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I do just want to do a quick reminder here that we have a Q&A section. I'm seeing some great questions coming through, so we'll have those and we'll ask those speakers at the end of this section. But I did want to encourage more questions, because we can put them in the page and share any questions that you might have and answers to them. So definitely any questions wine related that you have, please post those in there and we'll make sure to tackle those later. All right, my next question on the benefits of self-pour wine for operators is, Thomas and Lane, for both of you, how quickly did you reach your ROI with your self-pour wine on tap system? If you're able to talk to that a little bit.
So the self-serve system and the great deals you can get with it within about a year. Of course, that was the year after the one we actually started, because we started in 2020, March 2020 specifically. So almost the greatest time to have a party So at first, it was a little bit difficult. We couldn't actually use it at first, so it took us a little bit longer than most. But just because of how easy it is to manage your inventory using kegged wines, how easy it is to build a concept, pairing with events, you can reach your ROI much quicker than we did, and we were successful enough to open up a second business the year after 2020. So the concept is good. If you're able to manage it well, the return on investment is going to be very fast.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Thomas. Lane, are you able to speak to that a little bit as well?
Yeah, no, I agree with Thomas. We've been open a little over a year here in the Tacoma area, and our ROI was about 9 to 11 months, and that was really why we decided to move forward with number 2 and number 3. The ROI comes much quicker than your normal restaurant, and the other concepts that we've opened. It's more of a 4 or 5 year return on your investment if it's a successful concept. So this has definitely been a successful concept for us.
Glad to hear that, and can't wait to be back for more Red Dog.
Yes, that's right.
Great. I'll be back in Washington in a few weeks. Thomas, next question is for you. We're almost done with our first section, and that question is, how have you utilized Wine on Tap to create unique tasting experience for your customers?
Yeah, well, the perfect part about PourMyBeer and the little tablets that you can see behind me right here is that you can click on each wine before you and get a little description about it. That includes the ability to put even a menu item onto if you have a food truck attached to your items that would pair well with this wine. I mean, the ability to pair wines with anything is infinite. We mainly do wines. We don't have our own kitchen just yet, and we partner with a lot of food trucks. So having their own menus and ours pair up sometimes doesn't work out too well, but we do pair it with events. We host probably the largest drag show in Austin. People love wine and drag. People love wine, and we have a bachelorette viewing. I mean, the ability to pair wines with any experience is endless. So not just foods, you can do it with a lot of other things. So
Great, wonderful. Okay, Lane, unless you want to add anything to that, creating unique tasting experience for your customer, I think you've covered a lot of that already in the benefits section, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think exactly what Thomas said is perfect. Yep.
Okay, great. This is a little bit more personal, Lane. What's your personal favorite part of offering self-pour wine on tap? What do you like about it?
For me personally, I think just being able to mix up, the types of wines that we offer, I think more than anything. So, we're, with the other concepts, we have, maybe 6 or 7 Chardonnays by the bottle. Well, we can offer a Chardonnay on the PourMyBeer system, and if it doesn't work out, it's really easy to change out, right? So in the other concepts, if we want to change out of a Chard or a Pinot that's not working out, we have to reprint menus, and there's a cost factor involved with that. So here if it's not a fast seller, we can change it out right away and get something on there that's a faster seller.
Definitely. Great. Thank you. Now it's time to ask one question from the audience. There has been multiple really good ones, but there seem to be some very basic, so I do want to make sure we cover those. Luciana asked, is wine stored in a typical keg like beer? What size? How long can you store it? How often do you rotate? And how do you plan for inventory to carry? So that's a lot of questions in one. I'm going to just have this start by Barclay, just because Barclay this is what he does and sees on a everyday basis. So Barclay, can you just quickly answer the first one? Is wine stored in a typical keg like beer, and what size?
Sure, yeah. We exclusively work with reusable steel kegs, stainless steel. So it's just like beer. We use a 6-barrel size, so it's equivalent to 26 bottles roughly of wine. And as far as storage goes, it's surprising because you hear about wine cellars, and you would think that you'd need to store it in a very temperature controlled environment. By all means, we don't want it to be out in the sunshine or in excessive heat or anything like that, but it's way less sensitive than beer, actually, because we don't have the risk of foaming. And the kegs are extremely protective. It's all inert, and there's no light, and those are really the two biggest factors for degradation of wine quality. So believe it or not, you can actually store it a little easier than your beers because you don't have to worry about the foam issue. But still need to avoid excessive heat. Probably you don't need to keep it at the wine cellar temperature of 55 degrees. We haven't found that to be an issue, but somewhere around room temperature is just fine.
Perfect. Thank you, Barclay. I'll give you a speaking break. And the second part of the question from Luciano is, how long can you store it and how often do you rotate it? How do you plan that inventory? Maybe, Thomas, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, storage you have for, I believe it was about a year and a half in the keg if it's stored in cool temperatures. I'm not, don't quote me on that. I'll have to look it up again. But for rotation, I mean, we use mainly the slim kegs, the 20-liter ones that Barclay was saying, roughly 26 bottles of wine in those. Those are able to rotate anywhere a week to 3 weeks on the tap wall. And, we just think that way we do have a very often rotation on the tap wall, giving the consumer a lot of varietal options. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy to rotate them. And then if you're having trouble selling one wine, it's just not the season for it, it's too hot or whatever, it's kind of hard to sell Cab Franc in the heat, you can put it on fire sale. So having the ability with PourMyBeer to show the prices and the descriptions and why it's on fire sale even is is really just awesome for us.
Right. Thank you. Elaine, can you chop into that too? How often do you rotate your wines, and what is the longest that you've seen your wines being stored?
I think like what Thomas said, right now we're going through a lot of whites. So we rotate, really when they're empty, we rotate it right away. But right now I would say, with every 2 weeks, we're burning through a keg of rosé or sparkling. So less reds right now. But we did find out that in the winter we went through a lot more reds than we did whites. So it's definitely a seasonal impact on our inventory.
Wonderful. And Barclay, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Oh, yeah.
you should be able to store a wine without really affecting the quality for at least about 3 months, as long as it's stored in a proper temperature and everything.
Yeah. Let me expand a little bit on that. So we guarantee our wines from 3 months of tapping. So once you officially tap it, we guarantee that it'll be fresh for at least 3 months. And we guarantee it for a year before you tap it. But these are we've had plenty of circumstances and examples of wines being on tap for an extremely long amount of time due to COVID. We actually even have a couple at our office still that we have that were tapped before COVID, and really just to show that they're still tasting fine. It's just we limit our liability a little bit, but at the same time, you shouldn't have to worry about going through the keg fast enough. We've seen kegs be stored for longer than a year or two without tapping them as well. So there's really quite a lot of security in there, and it does come down to like the wine style and sort of what if it's a real light sort of acidic white, it's probably going to benefit from being drank a little bit sooner. But again, I've been surprised. I've tried some Sauvignon Blancs that are 3 years old, 2.5 years old, and would have tasted. I would have thought they were just fresh vintages right away, just because of the way that the quality's stored, really protected in these kegs.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Barclay. Thank you so much for asking such a great detailed question, Luciano. I hope that answered it. If not, ask more questions in the chat. We'll answer them later on the page. Now let's jump into our section 2, and that's on a topic on how to execute self-pour wine, how to go about this. So I'll have a first question here for Thomas, who is posing here in the picture. What type of wine can be kegged, and what experience do you have with different types of wine being kegged?
I mean, you can find anything like any type of wine that can be put in a keg, you can put on your tap wall. We even have natural wine. We have a pet nat on tap right now. We have Prosecco, sparkling wines, sparkling rosés. You can find sangrias even, wine-based cocktails, as I was saying. just honey wine. We work with a local distributor for that, Meridian Hive. But I mean, anything that can be the name okay works with the coupler. You can put on your tap wall. So that's why we're always looking, for the coolest new wine that our consumers can just try an ounce of, get a little taste of it, say that they've had that Israeli rosé or that anything. We love having it on tap and giving people the option. So.
Perfect. And this is where free flow wine comes into place for you, right? And you do a lot of the wine ordering for different types from them. Is that right?
Yeah, mainly, and then we work with our NDC, just local distributors that you guys have. Mainly free flow wines because they offer the service of the cleaning of the kegs, recycling of it, and they're just super easy to work with.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. Now, the next question is for both of you. And Lane, hopefully you can start this one. Where and how do you purchase kegged wine?
Well, through our distributors mainly, and we usually use like the RNDCs and Young's Columbia and some of the larger ones. We have gone out to some of the boutique wineries that don't use distributors, that self-distribute it, just to add some variety and add some of the wines that some people don't know about, but have been popular. So we've tended to do that too. So we kind of just look all around and talk to all distributors to find out what they have in inventory and push them out.
Thank you. Thomas, do you want to chop anything else here? I think you kind of answered it in the previous question.
About where and how you
about the purchasing.
Yeah, through RNDC, and like you said, if you have, we live near Fredericksburg in Texas and Austin, so you can go to these local boutique wineries and get, if they have the kegging process, or if what we're trying to do is get into the kegging process as well, we can get those vintages and put them in keg, put them on our tap wall. So, I mean, the sky is the limit. There's so many different varieties offered in keg that will stay fresh, and you can, rotate because of what season you're in. So.
Great, thank you. Thomas, can you talk to us a little bit about how do you clean wine kegs?
Free flow. That's how we do it. We give it to free flow, and we say that we have them and they're empty, and yeah, they take care of it, and they're super awesome.
You mentioned that you have some experience cleaning kegs as well. It was just for a beer, right? It wasn't fun. Took a long time.
No, not too fun, and with kegging your own wine and beer, it's 99% sanitizing, making sure nothing gets spoiled or there's no faults. Just having a regulated third party to do that is very helpful for us, and it keeps our staff just changing out wines based on what the consumer trends are.
Mm-hmm. Great. Barclay, could you tell us a little bit more about what's the timeline for cleaning the wine kegs, and how does it work if somebody's utilizing the free flow wine services for this?
Yeah, sure. We use caustitic acid and steam. It's a pretty quick process, mostly because we've invested in state-of-the-art equipment and have really are built to do this. So we also have a robot on site who helps with some of the heavy lifting, literally, and is able to help us clean hundreds of kegs an hour. This is one of the main parts of the services that we provide, is just to make sure that everybody's starting with a sterile, clean keg, and that there isn't any bacteria or any surprises in there, and we're extremely effective at doing that.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you, Barclay. Lane, I have last two questions here in this section. Again, I want to encourage everybody here to ask more questions in the Q&A section. I've already seen some really good ones coming through. So you're really taking advantage of the knowledge of Lane and Thomas and Barclay. But I do encourage everybody to post more. We'll be happy to answer any of them later this week and share the page with you. Lane, this question is for you. How long does wine in kegs last compared to bottled wine?
Well, I think, like Barclay said, they can last up to, 3 months and sometimes even longer. Wines in bottle, it just depends on whether you pump them once you open them. We usually don't allow wine and bottle to go any longer than 5 to 6 days. We date it at our other concept. We date it and then pump it at the end of every time we use it, especially as wines by the glass. And then after 6 or 7 days, if it's just not smelling right, then we unfortunately toss it. So, but yeah, like Barclay said, wines and cake can last months.
Great, thank you. Barclay, did you want to add anything to it? I feel like you already shared the main knowledge here with us and revealed the secret.
Yeah, yeah, I think one other thing just to quickly expand on is, with wine, there's sort of, even before you open it, they are bottled with closures or cork or screw caps or whatnot that are kind of allowed to let the wine sort of mature. And so, if that's your end goal and you're collecting fine wine, you might want to see how that wine's going to mature. But for most wines that are by the glass, ideally the consumer is tasting it in the exact condition that the winemaker would want you to. And I think that's one thing that stainless steel kegs really do extremely effectively. When you think about it, in quality wineries all around the world, you see stainless steel used, and it's because of its inert nature and the fact that it doesn't impart any flavors. And so really we're just taking these fermentation tanks to the account level and letting customers really try the wines exactly as the winemaker intended. So I think that's another big perk of Wine on Tap.
Great, thank you. Now this question is for Thomas. Final question of this section before we hop in a question from the audience. So Thomas, what made you choose steel kegs versus disposable?
Well, of course, there are some wines that aren't offered in steel, and there's sometimes we use disposable kegs. The good thing about them is that you can pump the gas from them and recycle them, but then you are using a lot of dumpster space putting these really big kegs into there. That's not really a viable option. Stainless steel allows you to keep it for a little bit, send it back to your distributor, and get another one for deposit. It's just a much better system.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you.
And it's better for the environment, much better for the environment. So
definitely, I've been seeing that trend a lot here, especially in the U.S. That the kegged wine is just much friendlier for the environment with less bottle waste. I have a question here from the audience that my team has passed me, and that is from Daria. Daria asked if there is a personal consultative dynamic to wine service between customers, servers, and sommeliers and bartenders. So what do you as operators, do to really give a similar experience to your customers who might have questions like regions, flavor profiles, styles, while utilizing the self-pour systems? I think you both will enjoy this question. Thomas, I think I'll have you kick that off first because I see that Wanderlust is really big about this, and then I'll have Blaine add anything to it.
Yeah. So we do mainly self-serve, where we have people behind the bar. We have certain options behind the bar, like frozen options. Sometimes a sparkling that's a bit finicky on the tap wall we'll put behind the bar. But we offer mainly self-serve, so we can run our whole huge venue with up to 4 employees only, and on a very busy day. It's just, it's a pretty cool concept. I kind of lost my place right there.
They were asking about how do you really utilize this to give similar experience to your customers, information about region, flavor profile.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, so I myself am the WSET sommelier for our taste ambassadors is what we call them, the people that help out, get your tab started for the PourMyBeer. We do offer that they become one WSET sommeliers. That's all paid for by one. People do ask a lot of questions about what wines they like, where they can find wines are similar, and it's having knowledgeable staff that can kind of show them how the system works and show them where on the tap wall that is really awesome for their experience.
Great, thank you.
And one thing I might just add real quick, I know I'm not in the day-to-day, but as a consumer, I've been out, and it's often really hard to get a second glass of wine these days. Like you get your initial drink order in, and then you're sitting there and you're hoping that the server will come back again soon and ask if you'd like a refill. But there's labor shortages and whatnot. It's just, and I really think that with the self pour, you're able to get yourself what you want when you want it. You can ask questions if you need help, and generally staff are more available than it can be in a full service sort of environment where there's just not enough people these days, not enough labor these days in the restaurants to support in-depth conversations about the wines or to ask too many questions, let alone even get a second glass sometimes.
Mhm. I feel like you guys covered it. Lane, did you want to add anything to it?
Well, yeah, just one small, benefit. It's actually not a small benefit; it's a pretty big benefit of having the self pour is that you can put all the information on the iPad about every single wine and beer you have up there, and you could put the vintage and the tasting notes and where it's from, where if you're the other concepts that we have, we're doing constant training with the staff on wine and where each wine that we have by the glass and where it comes from and doing tastings and we're saving so much on labor, and labor is tough right now, like Barclay said, that we let the guests go up there and read that all the information that some guests really want right on the iPad instead of relying on a server's knowledge about the wine that the server may be too young to drink wine, or they may not drink red wine, or so it's a pretty big benefit to have it on self pour.
Great, thank you. Elaine, I'm glad Josh is not tuning in. That's the founder and CEO of PourMyBeer. It's not iPads, it's a custom-made screens just for the hospitality industry, but I'm going to make sure he doesn't watch the recording so he doesn't hear it. He doesn't. But I'm glad that you're utilizing it to that benefit. Being a big beer drinker, I get very nerdy about that and love to read the tasting notes about my beers. And I think that people feel the same way about wine, and if they really want to know what region it comes from, what flavor profiles to expect. This is where the interaction of the screens and being able to see the tasting notes come in. So that's great. Dario, this was a great question. Hopefully we answered it for you. You will be one of our winners. So stay tuned for the rest of the webinar. We're jumping in our last, third, and shortest section here. So this is going to be on the topic of the future of self-pour wine. My first question goes to you, Thomas and Lane. Why should more operators in the industry make the shift to self-pour wine, in your opinion?
I mean, saving on cost. I mean, the ease of management, how much you're saving on waste, and how much you're not putting into your recycling bin at the end of the day. It is really just helps you out throughout the week on the amount that you need throughout the day. You have labor that can kind of run shift by themselves, work the tap wall, change out line too, and this offer a great experience, that the consumer can almost have by themselves, with our aid and whatnot. So I think it's a great way to transition in terms of service, self-serving your own wines, not having to have a bottle poured in front of you by a server and pretend you like it because you feel bad that he just opened up a full bottle for you, going through with it. You can just get it on the tap wall, try a little bit of it, and go out your day.
Thank you. Alan, did you want to add anything to it?
Yeah, I think just what he said, the sustainability factor, the consistency of the wine, when you're pouring a keg of wine, the consistency of the taste and longevity of that consistency is going to last much longer. Definitely the cost factor, you have a lot less waste. And then, you're not throwing away bottles, you're not throwing away the cardboard and recycling the cardboard and the bottles come in. And I think the cost factor is definitely probably the biggest impact.
Definitely. Lane, what made you choose self-pour technology and more specifically PourMyBeer?
Well, I have a friend down in San Diego who opened up a concept down there that was a pour your own beer drinks down there, and we went down there and visited and just thought it was really an intriguing concept, and nobody had done it in the state of Washington yet. And this was pre-COVID, about a year or two pre-COVID. So, we're always looking for something fun, innovating, different, unique that nobody else is doing. And so we kind of tapped into that market in Washington. That's why we chose it.
Great, thank you. Thomas, I know that Sammy obviously made that decision, but you've been very much involved with Wanderlust since the very beginning. So do you know why Wanderlust, both locations, pick specifically PourMyBeer?
We picked it just because it was the most fitting to the concept that we had. Ability for people to choose their own wine best suited on the PourMyBeer system. And, the software team is really easy to get a hold of. The customer service is really easy to get a hold of, and it's just an overall easy process for us. Sammy was a study abroad student for I forget what it was called, but when he was getting his master sommelier in Europe, he saw these concepts in Spain and Italy where there was self-serve wine on tap, not through PourMyBeer and not on a tablet, but he saw the experience of it, wanted to bring it to Austin.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, funny story. Sammy actually came and visited Free Flow, our facility in Sonoma, on that program. I think it's with the OIV program, and it's a master's or whatnot. But
yeah,
a group of students, they just came a couple weeks ago again too. But on that program, they took them to Free Flow, and I think that's where the ideas started flowing as well. So very cool. And Sammy's and Wanderlust is a great partner for sure.
Excellent.
And one thing I'd add just to the benefits of self-pour and and why self-pour in the future is there's a lot of research out there that's showing that the younger generations, millennials, Gen Z, and whatnot, are really looking for more variety than is traditionally really realistic to offer on tap, like by the bottle or just in the traditional format. And so I think that self-pour really makes it easy and convenient to do these sampling programs and really provide the variety that the younger generations are looking for, and ultimately helps keep them in your place for longer and returning and just making your business more successful. So I think that's an important part of why we'll see a lot more self-pour and wine on tap in the future for sure.
Wonderful. I'm going to encourage the question here in the Q&A section again. We're coming up to the last two questions of this section, and we'll have one last question from the audience. I just want to encourage everybody to ask good questions for our speakers today. My next question is for Lane and Thomas. I want to know what's next for them in terms of serving wine on tap. So let's talk Red Dog first. Lane, what's next?
Well, what's next for us is our next location will have anywhere between 40 and 50 tap handles, and so that will give it, the first location we only have 24, so it's pretty small, but the second location will be able to offer more variety of reds, more variety of whites, and so we're excited to be able to offer more wines on tap.
Excellent. Is this going to be the location in Bellevue?
The Bellevue is the third location. The second location is the one out in Puyallup.
Okay, great. I have another reason to go to Washington, so I'll take that.
There we
great.
go.
Thomas, what's your what's next in terms of serving wine on tap for Wanderlust? I know you guys are already doing so much, but is there anything else you're gonna try to implement, do some tweaks?
Yeah, well, so we're gonna bring the self-serve to the people. We have some little carts, little go-karts, I like to call them, that have a couple kegerators on them. And we'll have wine on keg on them, and we'll bring them to off-site events, hopefully little music festivals, and just represent Wanderlust at different locations. Bring mainly rosés, some whites, in Texas, but it'll be really fun.
Excellent, thank you. And my final question, it's sad, I don't want to let you guys go because I feel like you have so much knowledge to share, but we'll pick your brain later for the page that we'll be sharing with other questions we didn't get to answer from the audience. So my final question here, Lane, I'll have you start, is you already mentioned, as for exciting news, you're doing another location, but I wanted to know, are there any other exciting news, any extra tweaks you're doing? It doesn't have to be wine related. Any new beverages you're testing? Anything that Red Dog is playing with that you can share with us?
Well, I think, having the next couple locations with good-sized patios will be a real big benefit. Some picnic tables. Here we have a shuffleboard. The next location, we're doing a foosball table. We've added a lot more table games, which have kept a lot of people in-house drinking and eating more. Trivia night has been huge on Tuesdays, but we're going to roll out a bingo night. So it's be a fun, just another night of the week that can draw a crowd in and have something, a fun game. The millennials, like we were talking about, love the fact that they know what they're being charged when they're pouring. And that's the biggest, I think, communication that we've received from our guests. But also, they want to go to an establishment and they want to have fun and they want to play games and they want to be entertained, per se. And so that's why trivia and I think bingo is going to be a hit as well. So, yeah, that's kind of what's new in our concept anyway.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much, Lane. The same question goes for you, Thomas. Any exciting news about your business that you want to share with our audience besides those trucks?
Yeah, besides these little trucks that we'll have, one of them is going to be a party bus. The other one is going to be a little mobile kegerator. But we right now are currently hosting possibly the largest attendee drag show in Austin, maybe in Texas every Sunday. We match it with mimosas, brunch from the food trucks, and the tap wall, of course, behind us. And, when there's 300 people in this big facility that we have, this big warehouse, having them little key cards, pouring their own beer, and it's key cards that we print as well. We can dish them out. It just really helps our staff keep the wines on tap fresh and new. Keep the really full. Most bars in Austin, you can find not the most likable things in the bathroom. So we like to keep a nice, clean environment for people and max it with a lot of awesome events.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. I have a last question here from the audience. Sheila asked, are you able to do a happy hour through PourMyBeer tech? Now, I don't really know if Lane is utilizing it. I know Wanderlust is. Lane, is Red Dog utilizing the happy hour?
We do, yes. We utilize it, and we mix it up a little bit. So sometimes we offer happy hour beers, sometimes we offer happy hour wines, ciders. So it's really easy to program in the PourMyBeer, and it's fun for the guests, and it draws a completely different crowd when it's a wine happy hour compared to a beer happy hour.
Great. And Thomas, I know that Wanderlust is utilizing that feature as well. Do you do it for specific groups of wine, or do you do it across the wall?
We do it across the board. We have a reverse happy hour most days, except for we have a fire sale every Thursday at our East Side location where it's half off the taps, and we get in anywhere from 500 to 800 guests throughout the day, and we're just able to show the concept, show our space, get a lot of people intrigued about what type of events they can plan with us.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Well, it looks like we've made it through our 3 sections. Does everyone feel more knowledgeable about keg wine and feel ready to take your wine sales to the next level? I sure hope so. If you have any questions for me or my team, you can get in touch with one of our self-pour experts and schedule a free consultation. Simply scan this QR code on the page and on the slides. You will see it here. Let us know more if you have any specific questions, if you're dealing with challenges in your business, and you want some help on that side. Our team of self-pour expert is happy to help you out and have a conversation with you and hopefully see what we can do for you. We will send out the Q&A page later this week that will have all the answers from the questions that we were not able to answer during this live event. So thank you so much, everybody that were asking questions, because we got some great questions. Thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar on how to execute wine on tap and its benefits. I had such a great time speaking with Barclay from Free Flow Wines and Lane from Red Dog and Thomas from Wanderlust Winery. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. We really appreciate it, all our 3 speakers, and we hopefully look forward to speaking to you again soon. I hope you all enjoyed our webinar and feel like you're expert on executing kegged wine and boosting your wine sales. Have a fantastic day, and thank you so much for tuning in. Cheers. I don't have anything but tea. Hopefully somebody has a wine here. Thomas, do you have some wine glass still there, full? Or if you have a wine glass, cheers to you. Have a great day, and thanks again all for tuning in. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.